everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited for this video. I've been waiting for such a long time to do this spread. So for my April bullet journal entry, it is going to be a purple wisteria flower theme. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm using my Tombow brush pens to create the flowers, and you'll see how I do that here as I make short little strokes that are going inwards, and as I go down, it's getting narrower and narrower. You can do this however you'd like. There's a lot of freedom that allows room for mistakes. It'll still look great in the end, so just trust yourself. You can space the petals as close together as you'd like or as far apart as you'd like. And as you'll see, once I reach towards the bottom, my petals are further spaced apart and looking more just like little dots. So I started off with my lightest shade of purple first, and as I go on, I'll use my darker shades. I also forgot to mention earlier that I already pre-sketched a tree, and the reason why I'm drawing the flowers first instead of coloring in the tree is because I want the flowers to stand out more and be more 3D-like. Because if I was to color in the tree first, it would look like the branches are covering all the flowers and the flowers are behind the branches. So this way you'll get the full effect of the flowers in full bloom. So now that I have half of the flowers I'd like to be drawn, I'm going to go ahead and color in the tree. I'm being very careful coloring around the flowers and not on top of it, that way it doesn't cover the flowers. I also forgot that I needed to draw in the leaves and the stems of the flower first, so I'm going to do that now before completing the tree. So now I'm just tracing over the branches that I sketched earlier. It was kind of difficult to see where exactly they all were because the flowers are blocking it, but I tried my best to trace it as best as I can, carefully, not going over the flowers. And once I was done with that, I went in with a darker shade of brown to just go ahead and draw in the bark of the tree. Now that the tree is complete, I can go ahead and draw in the rest of the flowers. And as I did that, I also had to remember to draw in the leaves and the stems of the flowers. I also decided to add in more greenery to the tree. So I thought I would be done with the last step, but then I wasn't too satisfied with how it looked yet, so I decided to add in more flowers because a girl can never have too many flowers, right? So now I'm using my lightest shade of purple in my Tombow dual brush pen to write in the month of April on my cover page. And because I want to do a ombre effect on the letters, it's always important to start off with the lightest color, that way you have a guide when you shade in the darker color on top. Now that I have all my colors on, I'm using my blending marker from Tombow to just blend in all the colors together. As one of the final touches, I'm adding petals on the floor and also petals that's falling down. So one last thing to top it all off, I'm going to use my Pastel Sticks just to shade in the bottom of the floor in purple and pink. I think this step will really just bring it all together and complete my cover page for April. And we're done! So this is the final look of my completed April cover page. I love it so much and I hope you do too. But let's keep it moving to the next page, which is the April calendar and important dates. So I'm starting off by writing April in different shades of purple using my Crayola super tip markers as well as my Tombow dual brush pens. Now I'm writing out the initials of the days of the week and outlining the pre-sketched calendar. So I wanted to try something different this month. So instead of having a big calendar, I'm just having this little one here just to kind of guide me of where I am in the month. And on my right page, we'll have a list of all the dates along with the important events and things going on for the day. Now using my watercolor palette to paint a purple and orange sunset background for the quote that I'm going to paint on in just a moment. I tried using as less water as possible because I didn't want it to bleed through to the other page. As you can already see, some of the writing from the previous page has already bled through, so I didn't do the best job blending everything together, but I'll take it as it is. So while I wait for that to dry, I'm going to start on the header of the next page, which is the list of the important dates. And for the header, I'm using the same method as I did on the previous page, doing the wisteria flowers with my Tombow brush pens. Writing down the initial of the day of the week on this side, and next to it will be the date of that day. And before I fill in the dates, I'm going to highlight the line of every other day just to have a better guideline when I'm filling it in. Now that the watercolor has dried, I'm going to trace over what I wrote before with my white gel pen because it's kind of hard to see now. So this will just be my guideline when I paint it in with the white paint. This took quite a while to finish up because I used such a fine tip brush that I couldn't hold too much paint, so I had to go back and forth and dip my paint between each stroke. Next time I'm definitely going to use a paint pen instead. It'll make it so much easier. The quote says, "Dreams don't work unless you do," and I chose this quote specifically just to help inspire me and motivate me to put in more work towards my creative outlet so that hopefully I can one day live out my dream of becoming a full-time artist and creative. That has always been a childhood dream of mine, and it would be so amazing for it to come true. And now to complete the sunset, I'm adding in clouds. I'm honestly kind of doing this just to cover up the ink that has bled through from the other side. But it also adds a nice touch to it that completes the sunset. And now adding the final touch, I'm going to outline the words with my brush pen just to help make the quote stand out more so that it doesn't blend into the background. Now that these two pages are complete, I'm going to move on to the next pages, which will be my big ideas and my expenses. Again, I have already pre-sketched a tree. This time it's in the center of the page, and I'm using the same methods as before to complete my wisteria flower tree. I'm adding in my leaves and my stems of the wisteria flower tree because it holds it all together. And a little fun fact for you guys, this tree actually branches out into the previous page. The branches at the top right here are actually connected to the tree that I just drew. I just thought that was a really cool idea, so I did the same thing for the next page. There will also be a small branch that's connected to the center tree. I'll be sure to post up pictures of the pages next to each other so that you can see how it all connects and becomes one big tree. And if you don't want to miss out on anything I post, make sure you're following my Facebook page at LetterMePretty and my Instagram account at LetterMePretty.cyn. I'll be sure to give those links down below and you can check those out. Now back to planning. The top portion of my expenses is dedicated to my purchases, so I have split it into 3 categories of the date, cost, and what items I've purchased for the month. And I'm doing the same thing on my important dates page. I'm highlighting every other line for a better guideline, but this time I'm using a different color for each line. The bottom half is for my bills, and I'm doing the same method as I did up top for my purchases. I've also sectioned it off into 3 categories. One for my billing card, the amount due, which I'll also include the amount paid, but I'll just keep note of it as I fill it in, and my last category of my new balance if I do have one. My big ideas page is pretty much going to be a blank canvas for me to jot down all my ideas whenever one comes to mind so that I don't forget. I've added petals for decoration and I've also added them to my expenses page. It just adds a nice little touch and it makes everything so much more fun to look at. I forgot to add it to my important dates page, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I'm also only using the lighter shades to do the petals so that when I fill in my journal, I'll still be able to see my writing. Now that this page is complete, let's move on to the next, which will be my mood tracker and my habit tracker. And if you remember my little fun fact from earlier, this branch will also connect to the center tree from the page before. And I'm not doing anything new here, I'm just using the same methods from before to complete this branch. So my mood tracker for this month is super simple. I'm just going to have a page of falling petals, and each different color is going to represent a different mood that I'm feeling for the month. So by the end of the month, this page will be filled with falling petals of different shades of purple. I didn't pre-number and date where each petal will go, so I'll just fill it in as I go through the month. I really like how my habit tracker is set up, so I've kept it the same. It's super simple and it's not complicated to do at all. It's also very easy to follow up on yourself because the layout is just so clear and simple of where you're at in the month. So I have 9 different categories of activities that I'm keeping track of for myself. This really helps me stay on track because it holds myself accountable for the activities that I'd like to do. I want to be able to fill in each day and not have a bunch of empty spaces. What I'm doing here is I'm just taking my markers to just scribble onto the ceramic plate, and once I have all my colors on, I'm going to take a watercolor brush to just dip it in water and then to whichever color I want to paint it on. I guess you can say this is a hack for watercolor painting. If you don't have any watercolors available to you, you can do this step and you'll be able to paint just as if you're painting with watercolors. You can have so much fun with this and mix all the colors that you'd like and create anything that you want. I would recommend anybody give this a try, especially if you've always wanted to give watercolor a try but didn't necessarily want to buy the materials yet. This will allow you to test it out to see if you like it and want to stick with it. It'll give you an idea and a feel of how watercolor painting works. Now that I have allowed everything to dry, I'm going to just write over the categories with my white gel pen. And now we are finally ready to start the first week of April. I always like to have a mini calendar somewhere on my weekly spread, that way I can see which week we are at within the month. My word of the week is consistency, because I do want to be more consistent in everything I do, from my personal life to my art. I believe that consistency really is the key to success, so I just want to be more consistent in everything I do. After writing out the word consistency, I just wanted to paint in the letters using the same method from the page before, just so that it can have a little more character. So I already sketched where each day is going to be in its own separate box. I'm going to draw wisteria flowers at the top of each box, and each box will have a different color of wisteria flowers. As always, don't forget your greens. And between each wisteria flower, I'm going to draw a vine of leaves to fill in the space. Now that the flowers are done, I'm going to outline each box. All that's left to do now is just to write in the days of the week and the dates. And that completes my April bullet journal spread. So make sure you're following my Facebook account and my Instagram as well to make sure you don't miss out on my other weekly spreads. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed watching this video as much as I did making it. I hope I have inspired you in some way on your bullet journal journey. And if you guys do any recreations, please don't forget to tag me because I'd love to see them all. Now let's do a final flip through of my April bullet journal spread.